oxpecker there. You'll notice does not have the bright red beak and yellow ring around its eye. Oh, and they're begging. They're begging from their parents, those slightly smaller ones. A little bit too old to be begging. But I guess like most youngsters, they'll keep trying their luck. Now, this camera does have a zoom function that leapfrogs you even closer to the animal, so don't be shocked or surprised if you get leapt forward a few inches. And that young chick would have been born in probably November or December last year, so it gives us a good idea of how long it takes for them to reach adult plumage. Probably another year or so, I'm guessing. I don't actually know the exact length of time it will take for an oxpecker to get its adult plumage, but we can assure you that it's certainly over a year, as they're approaching that 1 year mark now. It's actually incredible. Some of the birds, especially the bigger birds and birds of prey, can take anywhere from 5 to 8 years to get their adult colorations, which gives you an idea of how long that these birds can live for. Up to about 50 years would not be uncommon for the larger birds of prey. And everyone's on a go slow this morning. The birds, the buffalo. It's just us that are driving around frantically. Maybe we need to get in sync with the animals and go and find a bush to sleep under. I can hear a bateleur letting off its call in the distance. You may faintly be able to pick up some squawking. Sadly, it's a little bit too far from us, but interestingly, I'm fairly certain we know which bateleurs those are. There's a family that seems to be spending time on Leadwood Road, which is in the direction of those calls. And I think when we were tracking down the Inkahuma Pride that same day that they managed to kill the Cape Buffalo just on the sunrise safari, the morning we found them, we did have quite a lot of bateleur in that area, and it's over there where that call's coming from. Really pretty birds. We saw one yesterday afternoon at the Juma Waterhole. Who knows, maybe we will be able to sneak you a visual of one of them, a long distance visual, so I'll keep looking back in that direction. It's interesting, on slower drives, your mind starts to begin playing tricks on you, and you can see random little objects that you twist and contort into whatever you're hoping to find, and it causes you to often go back like we've done now and check random bushes that you think may be leopard or lion or anything that you're looking for. In this case, it was just a dark log that I saw that I thought needed double checking, possibly a kill dangling in a tree. But no luck. Bateleur still singing out. Okay, well, we're going to send you over to Brent quickly. He's got a beautiful antelope that's heading out of sight, so hopefully you'll get to see it.
Welcome back, guys. We've just found some of the other members of the extended family of Arethusa. We've got a male kudu, a nice big guy. He's unfortunately moving into the thickets. I'm hoping he's going to stop to feed. But at the moment, he's just moving parallel to us. He's going to sidle down the road to see if we can get a nice view of him. Unfortunately, it looks like he's about to disappear into this drainage line. Oh, he's stopping for a bit. A really nice, beautiful set of horns on him. And he's got an unlikely companion in a lone male impala who's making his way towards him. So it's not uncommon to see groups of different animals together, but there's only seems to be one impala here and one kudu. Maybe they're going for the safety in numbers approach. See if we can roll forward a slight bit. You can see they're actually quite close to each other now. So when, John Ray?
So the kudu and not the impala.
Maybe the impala will move through. There we go. You can see the size difference between those two animals. In that brief little second they were both in shot together. Kudu being one of the largest antelopes we get in this area. And impala, sort of small to medium. So even though it looks like the kudu is grazing on the ground, it's probably not. He's probably feeding off a small bush that's very low to the ground. But we're going to move along. Can't really see very much. So we're actually on the boundary of Arethusa at the moment. There's been no updates in Arethusa, so we're going to go check. Hopefully we're able to find some tracks of Shadow and Sindile. This seems to be the area they're spending a lot of time in at the moment, so fingers crossed, and hopefully we do manage to find some tracks. So I haven't heard any updates on the Birmingham boys yet. Maybe if I bump into someone, we can see if they've heard anything, whether they're still in the far northwest of these northwestern sections, or they've moved back east or south. It'll be very interesting to find out. I think more than likely they're still gorging themselves on that buffalo they managed to steal, and it'll be probably a day or so before they decide to start getting too mobile. I'm sure quite a few of you are wondering where Commander Bond is, or James is another one of the presenters, and Patricia has asked, when's James coming back? Well, hopefully he hasn't frozen to death in Siberia, even though it is their summer, I'm sure it's still quite chilly. And he should be back in a couple of days. So it'd be great to have him back. And to let everyone know, I'm going to be disappearing off for a couple of days as well. I'm going to visit some friends in Zambia for a little holiday. So a little bit of a change around coming in the next couple of days. Also, we have Jamie starting, which is really exciting to have a new presenter who can show you something different with her personality. And it's going to be very exciting. Our team is definitely getting stronger, and we're all looking forward to building and enjoying safaris with you over the next while, indefinitely, hopefully. Whoop, big bump. So now that we're speaking of James, I think we should possibly try a nearly impossible tree quiz. Got to keep the torch going while James has been away. I thought I had you guys yesterday with that splendid thorn or Acacia robusta. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for a nice tree, possibly one we haven't done before. So there's a pig. Let's see if we can get a view of that warthog. He is mobile at the moment. Probably just waking up and getting out of the burrow. Looks like he has stopped. So we're going to just try and get a view of him. I think he might run away. Looks like a male. We'll have a quick look now. So how did I tell that warthog was a male in that quick view? Okay, apart from the obvious, when you can't see the back end of a warthog, how do you tell the difference between a male and female warthog? You can send your answers to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So I'm quite sure the warthogs probably just got moving. They normally like to get out of their burrows a little bit later in the day. Oh, looks like he's decided we're not too much of a threat. He's going to start feeding. So we're just going to stay here for a little bit. Hopefully he relaxes down, and then I'll try and move a little bit closer. But for now, I want him to get used to the sound of us being close to him, so we don't disturb him. And then maybe once he's got used to that, we can maybe move a little bit closer. So he's still a little bit alert, lifting his head. He is listening to us. Not 100% relaxed. It is has been quite windy this morning, so he might still be a little bit nervous. I'll try creep a little bit closer. He might run, unfortunately. Just gonna move very slowly, and hopefully he doesn't run away. Find a gap for Jean-Ray through the bush. Unfortunately, he's behind some bushes, but we can see his rear end. He's walking away slowly through the bush. So, fortunately, we haven't disturbed him too much. He hasn't run off, he hasn't put his tail up, and which warthog quite do when they're often do when they're disturbed, and that is their little following mechanism. But we're not going to keep following him. Let him enjoy his morning, and hopefully for his sake he doesn't run into a leopard. on Georgian and Rosie B. You guys are sharp this morning. It is 4 warts on the male, those big protrusions out the side of his face, and 2 on the female. Now we have something quite interesting here. And we have been spending quite a bit of time at the hyena den, and you'll notice often we don't find a lot of feces around the den. And hyenas are quite particular in their bathroom antics, and they'd use them as scent marking. And as you can see here, there's lots of white bubbles of dung everywhere. So this is a spotted hyena latrine. So apart from making sure they don't defecate around their dens, which can be a big problem, they also use it as a very important scent marking tool. So this one is quite a big one, and it's spread over both sides of the road. And it's spread from all the way over here, all the way over here, on both sides of the road, all the way to where the vehicle is. So quite a regular used latrine site. There's lots of different aged dung here. I'm not going to pick any of it up. You never know what type of nasties live in predator dung. But here you can see a very nice hyena latrine site. Also on the grass and bush stalks around here, they would use that anal gland and scent mark on that. Pasting is what it's called. Far nicer than saying anal gland. So they'll paste using that anal gland to mark their territory. So quite interesting. I know this is possibly within our den sites range, and there is another hyena clan that has a den to the southwest of us. So it'd be very interesting to know whether this is a clan boundary or not, and we'll only actually know that if we saw behavior from both clans in that area at that time. So very interesting, and there's always so much we can learn about the animals we see every day, and we probably know a fraction of what is actually going on, and we just try to guess most of the time. But the nice thing about that is you can learn something new every day, and you never know when you're going to learn or what you're going to see out here. So with a lot of animals that live in permanent dens for different periods of the year, so the 2 main ones we could use from a carnivore point of view is wild dogs and hyena. Could imagine the possibility of disease and buildup if they had to defecate around the den site constantly, and they sort of are permanently resident in those places for a few months at a time. So it makes sense, and it's probably just an evolutionary adaptation to stop sort of build up of disease and that by making them defecate away from the den. Wild dogs are not as particular as hyenas, but they will still get up and move a little distance from the den before defecating. But hyenas are seem to be very, very strict about that. They will have a latrine site close to the den, so maybe within 50 or 60 meters, but they won't defecate right at the den where they spend a lot of time. So quite an interesting thing to try and help with sort of disease buildup and stuff. And obviously in the hyena den, in hyena feces, there's quite a lot of nasties, especially the amount of carrion they eat. So there's possibility of lots of different types of intestinal worms and flukes, liver flukes and things like that. So very, very interesting that they will choose to generally defecate and urinate a little distance from the den rather than where they spend a lot of their time. And it doesn't seem to be getting warmer this morning. Jandre has already reached for a blanket again. He started off being all tough, I think after my comment the other morning. No blanket on his legs. And now he has reached for the blanket, I've noticed. He seemed to have done that quite sneakily while I wasn't watching. So I'm keeping an eye out for that nearly impossible tree quiz. I'm trying to decide whether to try trick you with a young version of a tree you know, if I can't find a tree you might not know, or just a strange sort of growing pattern of a tree you might know. But don't worry, I haven't forgotten, and I'm keeping my eyes peeled around to see what tree we can find. So we've just left that hyena latrine site, and you noticed a lot of the dung was white. And Katrina was wondering, does it come out white or does it change color over time? So Katrina, when it comes out, it's very sort of greeny, gray and smelly, and it does change color over time. And the reason it does eventually turn white is because of the very high calcium content. Ooh, sorry, I think I see a track. That is in their dung. It is a hyena tracked in soft sand, so it looked a little bit bigger, which made me think it might possibly be a lion, but not a very distinct track. But I have got a little track to show you. And I'm going to show you this track quickly. But before we do that, just in case it disappears, speaking of calcium, we're off to an animal finding calcium in a different way, and we'll be back with this track or other tracks a little later.
Well, we haven't been able to find any carnivores, but what we have found is an inyala chewing on a bone. A lot of you may be quite surprised to see this, and it is quite interesting that a lot of the herbivores will actively seek out bones to chew on in order to supplement their diet with calcium. And unlike the hyena, whose bone-crunching jaws can quite easily crush through the bones, this inyala is having a harder time getting what it wants. And the official term for this is osteophagia, so the feeding on bones. And we have shared a few different sightings of giraffe chewing on bones. I can't think of any other animals that I've actually been able to share with you, and this is quite unique to see the inyala doing it. And I think James may have on one occurrence had an impala doing the same thing. Well, at this time of the year, when it is very dry, a lot of the herbivores will not be getting as much nutrients and minerals from the drying vegetation as they would like, and hence this strange behavior. Comfortable with this strange cuisine, and they look far more comfortable nibbling on leaves, but she certainly is doing her best to try and crunch off little bits of that dried up calcium. It would be interesting to know what animal it is that that bone came from. Who knows, possibly another inyala. So even though these animals may be killed by predators, or their family or other herbivores will be killed, they too will still benefit from the remains of the carcasses. And it's just wonderful to see how Mother Nature ensures that nothing does go to waste. And even though this bone could have been lying here in the bush for quite some time now, this Inyala is doing its bit for the nutrient cycle, ensuring that nothing goes to waste and everything will eventually be broken down and recycled back into the ecosystem. It also goes to show how important hyena are in the ecosystem, and you've been looking at some of their latrines with the very white dung, and they are one of the only animals who can successfully and effectively break down bone, initially by crunching through it with their incredibly powerful jaws, but on top of that, their digestive system can also further break down these shards of bone, whereas lion and leopard, who can certainly crunch through some bone, won't be able to digest it, and you will see fragments of bone in their droppings. So if it wasn't for the hyena, there would be carcasses littered all over the bushveld, and then that important link in the nutrient cycle would be lost, and there'd be a lot of waste, you could say. So even the hyena, who often get painted in a bad light for stealing kills, do provide and fill this very important niche that the Inyala is helping out with this morning. Good, well, it's interesting, we can't see any other members of this individual's herd. I'm sure they're not too far away, and they do usually stay in small herds, anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 animals in general in this area. In other parts of Africa, though, it's important to realize that dynamics can be very different, and in Zululand, which is close to my hometown, you get massive herds of Inyala and large congregations of them, and that's vegetation's more suited to them. But I'm sure there are a few Inyala still in this area, not too far from this individual, because it's uncommon to see them alone. Well, glad we got to share that. That's something interesting, and that's the great thing about being on safari. You always get surprised by these unique sightings. And the more time we spend out here, the luckier we get, basically. We're not too far from the Buffelshoek waterhole. I think you may have been there with Brent already. But things change, and who knows what will be there now. What we've decided to do is, because we've had no luck in the immediate area of where we lost the male leopard tracks we've been following, we're going to do a much bigger loop around now, still in the same general direction, but we're going to extend the search somewhat. Okay, there's a little hornbill. Please don't fly away. Okay, perfect. Now, what it's done is, and Brian's going to take you nice and close there, is it's flipped over a piece of buffalo dung. And what's underneath that buffalo dung are termites that have already started to break it down. So again, the nutrient cycle is so effective out here. Sadly, the termites are being prevented from doing their job. But I guess in turn, this little hornbill will be depositing the termites that it feeds all over the bush, so completing the nutrient cycle. And it may not finish all of the termites that were busy breaking down that buffalo dung. And this new little camera does come with its hardships, but the zoom really is enjoyable, and I think you may even be able to see some of the little termites on that dropping. I love watching the hornbills. They've got big beaks, but they're so accurate. And what it's doing is it's picking up each individual termite, tossing it into the air and kind of back into its mouth. Oh. Well, I'm glad I don't have to dig through buffalo dung for my breakfast, but it seems to be having a great time here. Well, I'm glad to know the animals in this area of the reserve are all having a good breakfast. The Nyala chewing on some bone, this little red-billed hornbill having a protein-rich termite breakfast. And it appears like it's had enough of those for now and may go and seek out another buffalo dung to flip over. Oh, what's its next plan? There's a very large pile of dung to its right. It'll be interesting to see what he does with that. When I say he, I mean he or she. Very difficult to distinguish between male and female hornbills, or at least the red-billed and the yellow-billed. Well, I'm happy that a lot of you guys are enjoying the new extended zoom on these cameras, but I must tell you that the cameramen are having a hard time with them. So other than the zoom, the cameramen aren't too happy with what's going on, because it's quite difficult for them to get their fingers onto all the different buttons that they need to. So they are battling, but appreciate all of your kind words and are happy to hear that you are enjoying the benefits of this camera. Going to return to that initial little pile of buffalo dung and flip it over again in the hope that more termites may have revealed themselves. It looks like it may be. Nope. I love the way they waddle around and hop around. They're such comical little birds. Very good. Well, the waterhole is just around the corner, so we're going to leave the hornbill to carry on foraging for snacks and see what's happening at the water's edge. Show you right now, you'll be able to get a good idea of the difference in the two birds. The yellow-billed is slightly bigger and quite clearly has a bright yellow beak. This one's carrying along a leaf on its stomach, which is interesting to see. Very fancy decorations. And it too now, it's a flattened buffalo dung that it's busy rummaging through, but there could well be some termite action there. I guess the hornbills know that they shouldn't attempt to flick over a buffalo dung unless it's hardened and been there some time, otherwise they could just end up with a smelly and wet beak filled of buffalo dung that has not yet been able to be processed by the termites. Be very cautious as they drink, so it's going to be interesting to watch this. You may be able to see a small black and white bird along the water's edge following them. That's an African pied wagtail, and you may notice it wagging its tail furiously every now and then. Who's going to be the bravest of the three? They're all kind of waiting, wondering, you go first. No, you go first. It would be wonderful to know exactly what they are thinking between one another. But what you can see is that they are just taking their time to make sure that there are no threats here. Yesterday afternoon, Karula was seen drinking here. Sadly, we were not in the right place at the right time, and she, from here, headed straight north into Buffelshoek, so there was no time for us to join that sighting. Surely not, guys. Surely you're not leaving without having a drink. Well, it appears that they are, so maybe they've just not feeling comfortable. The Egyptian goose that flew past earlier have disappeared. I think they were on their way to another water hole as we arrived. So there's not too much else happening here for the time being. And isn't it interesting how these impala have come all the way up to the water's edge, but just not felt comfortable about it. And have now changed their mind. Oh no? There could be a little bit of backwards and forwards here. So what we may do is wait here and see if they don't change their mind. And in the meantime, we can send you across to Brent, who is ready to test your skills. So he's got a little quiz prepared, and we're going to keep an eye on these impala. If anything changes here, we'll rush you back. Enjoy.
So welcome back. We haven't quite found the nearly impossible tree yet. So I decided I'd soften you guys into it slowly. I'm quite sure a lot of you might know what this track is that's in front of me already, but we're gonna throw it out there anyway, see who can figure it out. Quite a nice big track, and with this very dull light we have this morning, it's gonna be quite difficult to show you any of the smaller, more intricate tracks. So if we have a look, you can see 2 feet here. We've got one toe there, another there, another there, another there, and there's the back pad here. So both of them, this is the front foot, the back foot's on top, and you can often see those 2 front toes drag in the sand when they pull. And the biggest probably giveaway, and you must remember when you're tracking, you're not only looking exactly at what you can see in the ground, you need to look around you. And there's a nice big clue up against this bush. And that's all I'm going to say. So I'm going to let you guys ponder it for a little bit. So, we're going to move along, see if we can find anything else, and let you guys ponder. I'm quite sure a few of you there are going to be really quick on that, but I do have a plan. I think I finally remembered where a nearly impossible tree is. So we're going to head to that direction and see if anyone can figure out what this is behind me, and then try and figure out what's the nearly impossible tree. So a very quiet morning so far, but that doesn't mean there isn't absolutely fascinating things to look at. And it also gives us a chance to stop focusing on the big hairies and scaries and start looking at a lot of the smaller things we find out in the bush. Just gonna, okay, Jean-Andre, in this little combretum or bush willow next to us here. Oh, decided to go across to the other side, and you might still be able to grab. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go forward, and then I'm gonna try get them to come a little bit closer. So for those of you working on their bird list, I'm not sure whether you have actually seen this one before. I'm sure we have seen it on the drives, but if you are new at starting a bird list, it might be a nice little add-on. Oh dear. Well, not being very, very helpful to us, and they've flown off from the termite mound to the next set of bushes and are a bit far away now, but I will keep a lookout for it. It was a little tawny flanked prunier, so we'll try to find another one of those. So well done, guys. I knew you would be quite quick. On Twitter, Kathleen and Rosie were the first to get that track correct. And on email, Georgianne and Ron. So for those of you who might have just missed, we just had a look at a nice big track with a lot of defecation behind it. And it was most definitely a hippopotamus who left those tracks. So well done, guys. A lot more got it right. Those were just the fastest on the keyboards this morning. So there's that nearly impossible tree is around here somewhere. So while we look for our nearly impossible tree, those impala who were with Scott look like they might come down for a drink. They're still a little bit jumpy, but hopefully they do, and we'll be back with you once we find the nearly impossible tree.
Well, these impala came back to the water's edge and now appear to be checking the perimeter of the waterhole for any threats. They certainly do want to take a drink, but they've come up onto the dam wall, I guess, to make sure there's nothing spying on them from the other side. But they certainly do want to. Oh, will this be the first one? Taking a gap while his friends keep an eye on him from that vantage point of the dam wall. Imagine fearing for your life just to have a drink of water. It would be wonderful to know what they can sense. Can they smell Karula's scent from yesterday after she spent time here? Possibly that's what's alarming them. And maybe that's why they are just making extra sure that there's nothing here. Just going to move the vehicle forward ever so slightly. That wasn't good. It just disappeared down a hole. Sorry, Brian, are you okay with that? I think it could be that they can smell Karula's scent from yesterday, and that's why they are on high alert. That would be the only plausible explanation that I can come up with, because it is very open where they are, so they should feel confident. And is the first one going to take a sip? Will we finally see them? No, not quite ready yet. As I was saying earlier, though, wouldn't it be absolutely wonderful not only to know how good the impala's senses are, but to be able to spend a day in the body of all the different animals here, from the impala to the elephant to the lion to the leopard, just to understand exactly how well they can see, smell, and hear, especially for the nocturnal predators that have got good night vision. That would be something really interesting to know. But then also to be able to feel what it's like to move as quick as they can. Or have the strength of an elephant to be able to push over trees if you desire. It's something that I always wonder about, especially in situations like this when you can see them. They're very, very intently listening, looking, smelling. Making sure there's no threats, but what is it that they can smell and what can they see and hear? Well, it looks like we could get lucky. They may come and drink right below us here. But they are just so cautious at the moment. And I have already said it once, but I must say it again. The wind will really make a lot of the herbivores much more nervous than normal. It will affect not only their smell and hearing, but also their sight. If a predator's moving through vegetation that's gently blowing in the wind, its approach won't be that easy to see. Whereas if everything's dead still, it'll be easy to see something moving through the grass. The fact that they cannot hear anything creeping up on them as well, due to the ambient noise from the rustling leaves and grasses, will make them very nervous. And I guess if they're walking into the wind, they'll be confident that they can't smell any threats, but they can't permanently walk into the wind, otherwise they may not be able to get to where they want to go. Who knows, possibly there is a leopard nearby, and it's not that they can smell Karula from yesterday, but they can smell a leopard from today. That would be a pleasant surprise if we just took a closer look and there was a leopard lying under a bush. It won't be the first time that that's happened to me. But I think we're going to leave these impala. We may be contributing to their nervousness. And see what else is going on in this area. Well done to all of you who got Brent's quiz correct. It's really important to be able to read into the signs of all the different animals and be able to understand what exactly is going on out here, even if it is the strange defecation habits of the hippopotamus. It's one of my favorite things to watch out here, actually. Sadly, we don't get to see it very often. It also makes a pleasantly nice noise. You probably didn't hear any of that. That wasn't a very good impersonation of the noise that it makes as they disperse their dung with their short, stubby tail. So the plan for the next part of the drive is to check the northern boundary, which has already been checked a few times by various vehicles today. But I'm hoping that Karula, a female leopard that was seen at this very same waterhole yesterday evening, may have come back into more familiar turf of hers, and that's here on Juma. And it may have just been a brief visit into Buffalo's Hook, I'm hoping. Oh, well, there was a kudu, but it's disappeared into some bush. So we're going to send you across to Brent, and we will keep you updated on our movements as we go along.
Hello, and welcome to the Nearly Impossible Tree Quiz. So, we have found a nearly impossible tree, and it is this tree behind me. I'm pretty sure I think I've got you all stumped this time. As you can see, it is a small bush. It doesn't really get much bigger than this. It can get up to about 3 meters, and I think I'm going to have to give you some clues to help you get this. So, if we look carefully on a branch over here, we can see there are spines. So spines are modified branches, they're not thorns. And that is probably one of the biggest clues about this bush. It is a member of the currant family, and that's about all the clues I'm going to give you. I'm going to bring a branch a bit closer that you can have a look. And another very important clue is where I'm sitting. In this area, this tree generally only grows on top of termite mounds. Like thorns, has a protection against animals, and very uncommon in this family. As I said, it's part of the currant family, but the spines or the modified branches are the clue. I mean, I really think I've got you guys this time. It is a very difficult tree, so hopefully there are some smarty pants out there who are going to be able to figure it out, but I think this one's going to take a little bit longer than normal, so I'm going to keep the branch with me while we continue on and see what we can find. But here we go, the Nearly Impossible Tree Quiz. Run home. Yeah. Oh, sorry, he's on there. Didn't see that bush. Off we go. Unfortunately, there have been no tracks and no updates since we've been on Arethusa. We're still going to continue to check, and hopefully we do find some animals that have a heartbeat, but we will continue on. But it is still awesome to be out here on a daily basis and out in the bush, and there's always something new to see and new to learn. So we had that question about the hippo dung and hippo tracks a little earlier, and Sherry's asking, are hippos the only animals to fling their dung? Out of the large mammals and the mammals we see regularly here, they are, and it is a territorial thing. They use their tail like a little windscreen wiper. Instead of cleaning, it spreads the dung, and that is to spread the dung, and that also helps, so probably with the smell, to stay longer. It opens up those dung boluses and spreads the smell further. Hippos are quite strange with their territorial behavior. They're far more territorial in the water, and they have sort of male hippos have grazing territories that actually they're narrower close to the water, and they spread up. Animals have. But animals with dung, so hippo is the only one who utilizes the tail that I know about to fling it. But a lot of animals will spread their dung by using their feet. And I'm going to take advantage of some buffalo dung that's here to show you what they do. So quite often they will defecate, and then to break up the dung and to spread the smell, they also often urinate on it. And also if they turn over the soil, and we watch lions do it quite often, but with urine, not with dung, and they'll do this. And it turns up the soil, and that fresh soil coming up from below the ground is said to be able to hold that smell for a bit longer. So we see quite often lion and leopard, when they're marking territory, they'll do this. Certain other species do it as well by kicking their dung around. So very interesting how different animals use different methods to ensure that their scent of their territorial markings will stay longer. Hyenas paste on grass and on bushes. Hippos spread. Lion and leopard mark on the sand. So very, very interesting how that can differ between the different species, and at the end it's with all the same goal, to try and make sure that their territorial scent marks stay for as long as possible. So we've had quite a few answers in, and as I think I might have caught you guys out finally. Normally I think definitely got them. They're not going to know this tree, and you guys always seem to prove me wrong. But so far we've had quite a few answers in, none of them correct yet. We've had woolly caper bush, we've had common spike thorn, jackalberry, sour plum, and so far no one has even got the family member. As I said, I think this is a tree. I'm not sure whether we've actually ever showed you any member of the family, so it could be a little the current family. That is the big clue that'll start letting you look in the right direction. And remember those modified branches or spines. That is another big clue that comes to identifying this particular tree. very chilly. I just took my gloves off, and I don't think that was a good idea. And pop them back on. I don't think the temperature seems to have raised much since we got moving much earlier on the safari. So we've got another answer, a Ziziphus abyssinica. Unfortunately not. As far as I know, we do not get any Ziziphus abyssinica in South Africa, maybe possibly in central Mozambique or northern Zimbabwe. I know they do come into Zambia. The only Ziziphus we get here is the buffalo thorn. So just to give you another quick look at the branch. And again, the important part is at the end here, the spines. Oops, let me move my fat gloves out the way. There we go. The modified branchlets. So apparently Steph might have showed you this bush before, but it doesn't seem like anyone can remember. So I'll give you a little bit longer before I put you out of your misery and let you know what it is. I'm not sure whether Steph has, but I could be completely wrong. But we will definitely put you out of your misery sooner rather than later. So we've got a few more answers in. Is it a form of a turkey berry? And I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Wangwa berry. It's neither of those. So I think it's time to put you out of your misery. It is a very interesting bush or small tree. And it can get up to about 3 meters. And the common name for it is a thorny caree or a spiny rhis, and the Latin name is Rhis gwenzii, and it is a thorny caree or a spiny rhis is the common name, and quite an interesting tree. In this area they only seem to grow on the top of oh, just hang on. And I think someone has got it right. But I'll carry on chatting. They only seem to grow on top of termite mounds in this area. And they're used in traditional medicine for eye problems like styes and infections in the eye, and various different methods are used. That you can take peelings of the bark and on the roots, and you boil it, and then your eye is washed with that. And even in circumstances to light a dry branch and burn it and let the smoke drift into the eye is another. I really thought I had you guys this time, so I'm going to have to work a bit harder at the nearly impossible tree quiz. So very well done. We're going to continue on. At the moment, we're parked next to a place that'll be quite important to a few of us later on today. It is known as Knobthorne Open Area, and it is also our touch rugby field, which occasionally our games get interrupted by animals. And the last time we played here, we had a very confused wildebeest bull who ran and going as we ran around chasing the balls. So while we continue on and see what else we can find, we're going to back across to Scotty, and he can let you know what he's been up to for the last little while.
Welcome back, everyone. And I hear Brent's getting quite tricky with the quizzes he's presenting to you guys. And well done to him for stumping you, I guess. It's not often that the quizzes will stump our seasoned safari goers. Now, there's an interesting bird that's busy feeding at the Djuma Waterhole. I've just caught a glimpse of it, and I'm just going to now get us into position to watch it doing its business. Haven't had any sign of Karula coming back into Djuma. That's not to say she hasn't. We just simply haven't seen any clear evidence of that happening. And that was the initial plan before we sent you across for that quiz. Oh, well, it wasn't what I thought it was. But there are two little birds feeding there. I initially thought the white one was a spoonbill from a distance, but it is in fact Now, it's not easy to see because of the muddy vegetation it's walking through, but it's actually got yellow feet. And that's what threw me off a little bit. The little egret is in fact what we're looking at, which does have yellow feet, but they are disguised now from the mud that it's walking through. Earlier on, though, we could see that it was a more yellowish tinge, and also that, combined with its size, points out to us that it's not, in fact, the yellow-billed egret, as well as its beak color, as well as the great egret. So this, I'm sure, may be a new bird to add to your lists. the little egrets. And it will hunt a lot of aquatic animals, insects, small fish, frogs. And you'll see how it's using its toes to try and shovel up any potential prey. I find it fascinating how birds can hunt in such murky water. And it's testament to how well they have adapted to their specific hunting niche. Come on, make a big kill for us. It can always be a funny sight to watch a lot. Oh! That looked impressive. It looked like it could have been going for something slightly larger there. As I was saying though, it can be quite funny to watch herons and kingfishers who catch prey that's actually too big for them to swallow. And that could happen here. The drying waterhole is going to make for easier and easier hunting as the months proceed. Because I'm not sure what Brian's filming, it's difficult to work out what's going on exactly. But now that the little egret has flown off, we can head on back to the hammerkop, which is still feeding, also using its feet in a similar fashion to the little egret, trying to sift out any potential We had a great sighting a few months back in the summer months of a hammerkop catching tiny little catfish at Treehouse Waterhole that some of you may remember. Trying to work out what exactly it is feeding on. It could be little aquatic insects. Whatever they are, they seem very small. Good. Well, I want to continue. I was going to go and check some trees where in the past we have seen Verreaux's eagle owls, and because we were fortunate enough to have a Verreaux's eagle owl kill a guinea fowl in the tree above our campfire last night, I'm inclined to go and have a look in the same tree where we found them with the guinea fowl kill before, as there is a chance that it may have headed back into that same tree to feed. It's a very slight chance. In the next couple of minutes, and see what's going on in a beautiful big jackleberry tree or ebony tree. The last time we found the Varro's eagle owl there with the guinea fowl kill, I was actually investigating the tree for any sign of leopard inside it, and the owl flew out with this kill, so that was a pleasant surprise. Okay, please don't go anywhere, little bird. Oh, no, we're in luck. It's just up ahead of us on the left of the road, and with this new little camera that's got great zoom, I really would like you to take a closer look at this bird. They are really pretty, quite bizarre colorings. Oh, and you may have got a brief glimpse of it. Yeah, and that was a white-crested helmet shrike. Oh, and there was another bird that I want to show you that's also just taken off. It might still be just up ahead. I tried to show it to you the other day, but it did the same thing then. Right, in that little gap at 10 o'clock, there's a black bird floating about. Have you got it?
No.
In the brown, you should get it now.
I did.
Now, it looks similar to a bird with a red beak called a green woodhoopoo, but it's not the green woodhoopoo. And when it turns its body, you may get a slightly better view. It's got quite a long, curved bill. I think it may have popped out. Popped
on it.
It's still on it, good. Now, because we don't see this bird very often, I would like you to try and tell us what it was, and if any of you are aware of that bird, I'll be impressed, because I don't think I've managed to show you one before. So we may have a few more birds for the bird list. The only clue I'll give you is it's often on the same page as the green woodhoopoo in the bird book, but it is not a woodhoopoo. So send your answers through very quickly, and in the next minute or two I will reveal who got it right, if anyone. And the little white bird, just to clarify earlier, was the white-crested helmet shrike. I know a lot of you are working on your bird lists, and I'm sure the little egret is going to be an additive for a lot of you that we saw earlier, and possibly that little black bird that we've just seen now. But I'll be hugely surprised if they are there. It's more of a bit of a research gamble that I'm undertaking here to see if they do like to feed in specific trees once they have made a kill. What makes me think that it's not likely is that it's quite a heavy prey to transport around, and they'll try and find somewhere as close to where they killed it as possible. Like to investigate this further by actually making sure. Well done, Georgian in Illinois. The common scimitable is the correct answer for that little blackbird that we've just seen. This tree on our left is where we last saw Varro's eagle owl with the guinea fowl kill. But I'm not surprised to see they are not here with their most recent one that they made last night. Okay, so here we go. You can see the red-billed woodhooper, or green woodhooper as it is now known, that we do see from time to time, and then the common scimitable, which is what we've just seen here. So very well done, Georgian, and it's a new one to add to the list, I'm sure, for a lot of you. And lots of others, I'm told, also got it right. It's just that Georgian was quickest to pull the trigger, and you don't have long out here. You've got to be snappy if you want to get your name called out for the correct answers on the quiz, so you've got to sharpen your tools. Anyway, thanks very much for joining us on this safari. It's been cold and windy, and hopefully this afternoon will be a little bit different to that, but it's always fun being out here with you. And thanks to Brian on camera, as well as Nikki, who directed the show, and Tara, who was lending her a hand. And we will see you all on the Sunset Safari.
Welcome back, everyone, and we are sitting with the flock of guinea fowl that probably had one of their group taken by that Varro's eagle owl last night. I know Scott was trying to look for the remnants of that kill. So this group of guinea fowl are one short this morning. But what an amazing sunrise safari it's been. We were very lucky to start off. Oh, look at that. Sorry. Quickly, before we disappear, I'm going to start saying my goodbyes, but there's a nice big group of giraffe making their way towards us. So I'm going to say a quick goodbye and leave you with the long-legged giraffe as they move across the quarantine clearings. So thanks very much for joining us. We really do appreciate all your questions. And there we go, off to the giraffe. I'm going to keep talking while we look at the giraffe. I'm far sure you would rather see the giraffe than me. So thanks very much for joining us again. It's been wonderful having you. We had an incredible elephant sighting with Mr. Wrinkly Bottom and the rest of that wonderful big breeding herd as they went down to drink. Thanks again for all the questions. If there are any new viewers, please keep sending questions. We really appreciate them. And there's no such thing as a dumb or silly question, only dumb and silly answers. So I'm going to keep quiet and let you enjoy the majestic movement of the giraffe. There are 5 or 6 giraffe that I can see. So enjoy the giraffe, and we'll see you for the Sunset Safari.